Hey y'all, Tanny Cooks here. Today I'm going to show you how to make an absolutely delicious and economical pasta salad to feed a crowd with just 2 or 3 pounds of meat. So a little goes a long way in this recipe. I'm also going to discuss in this video why I never rinse my pasta noodles after I cook them. And then I'm also going to discuss what you should do when you need to refrigerate a creamy pasta dish like this and take it out the next day and revitalize it. So let's get to cooking. First, I gotta get up off this floor. Then we can get to cooking. These are the basic ingredients we will be using. I have 2 Smithfield ham steaks, one in the package, one out. These ham steaks are a great option to use instead of cooking a whole ham that would take longer and heat up your kitchen more. You can see how thick this particular ham steak is, so I will make sure I cook it all the way through because it is pork. The warming instructions on the back tell you how to grill it, broil it, and cook it on the stovetop. I will be baking this in the oven. Also of important note is the nutrition packs. For a 3-ounce portion, look at how much sodium is in it. So this is a high sodium meat, but we're only going to use a little bit to feed a lot of people. You'll notice the flavoring. This one is apple crisp. The other one is brown sugar. That flavoring is actually in the glaze packet in here that I'm going to discard anyway. I'm also going to use a half a red onion, some frozen green peas, as well as some medium cheddar cheese, and of course my elbow macaroni noodles, and I can't leave out my Duke's mayonnaise. I do wash my ham to get off any gritty bits or anything that might feel slimy. I know some people don't wash their pork or their chicken or their steaks made out of beef, but I personally do because it makes me feel better, even though I know I will be cooking this through, which will also kill any bad things that we don't want to eat. In my 13x9 baking pan, I have my 2 hams with a couple of tablespoons of water just to help it cook through in the oven. I am going to cover this with foil and cook it at 350 degrees for about 20 to 25 minutes because I want to be sure that my pork is cooked all the way through. So this is how it looks when I take it out of the oven. One steak is under the other, ham steak that is, and I let it cool a bit so that I could put it on my cutting board. And what I'm going to do is use a paring knife to cut off the skin piece. It is edible, of course, but I don't think anybody really wants to chew on that in this pasta salad. So I'm cutting off the skin around the edges, and I'm also cutting off the pieces of fat. That's why I'm using 2 ham steaks, because some of the weight of the meat is actually fat, as you see here, as well as skin. In the center part of the ham steak, there is also some connective tissue, so cut that all out. Then you're ready to slice up your meat. So I'm cutting this into a nice big dice, as you can see there, a nice bite-sized piece, and then I'm just adding it to my bowl on the side. So I'm going to continue to do both ham steaks this way. Next up, I have my water boiling, and I have a 32-ounce bag of green peas. I'm only going to use half this bag, so 16 ounces, a pound of peas. These were frozen, so I only need them to thaw out really in my boiling water. So I'm only going to keep them on the stove for a couple of minutes, and then I am going to drain them in my sink. You could also use canned peas. Just try to get the no salt kind if you do. So after a couple of minutes, I put my peas in the colander and let them drain with cool water to cool them down because I don't want my peas to get mushy. So I'm going to let these cool off on the side so it doesn't melt anything else that's going to be in my pasta salad. So I have another pot of water boiling, and I added some salt. This is for my elbow noodles. Again, this is a 32-ounce box, but I'm only going to use half of it, so 1 pound of macaroni noodles. I'm going to let this boil with the salt for a couple of minutes before I add my other seasonings to my pasta. Now I'm cutting up my onion. This red onion is pretty big, so I'm only going to use about half of it. I'm using a red or purple onion, but you can use the onion of your choice. You could use chopped green onions or yellow or white onion. I'm cutting slits down lengthwise of this onion because I want to get it into a fine dice. To accomplish that, I'm going to turn my knife to cut inwards towards the onion, about 2 slits. If your onion is bigger, you may need 3 slits. And then with that perpendicular cut, once I start chopping down the top, you can see I have the fine dice that I'm seeking for my onions. So use the amount of onions that you would enjoy. My noodles have been boiling for just a couple of minutes, so now I'm adding a good helping of onion powder, granulated garlic, some ground mustard, And because I'm adding seasonings to this pasta, I am not going to rinse the pasta off afterwards. What I'm going to do is intentionally undercook my pasta. I also added black pepper so it could absorb these seasonings, and I'm going to let that go for just a couple of more minutes, a total of about 7. Next up, I have my medium cheddar cheese that I'm going to chop up. Now you can buy your cheese already crumbled up. You can also buy it the shredded kind. I prefer to just chop it myself. It's cheaper to buy cheese this way. For me on this particular day anyway. I'm cutting my cheese into big slices with my knife, and then I like to turn it sideways to easily get the chunks that I desire. So I'm going to make these kind of the same size as the ham chunks that I already cut up and have in a bowl waiting on the side. I chopped up the whole pound of cheese, and then this is also my onions on the side. I have cleaned out my colander, so now I'm going to use that to drain my pasta. My pasta has been boiling for about 7 minutes. It's been seasoned, so it is still undercooked, and that is intentional. You can see that it's still steam on it. What I'm going to do now is add the ingredients that I don't mind getting warm through a little bit. So that particular ingredient happens to be my onion. So I'm going to mix my onion in because this pasta is still hot, and it's going to continue to cook. Even after I took it off the stove, I am not going to rinse it because the heat I feel like will help my flavoring, i.e. mayonnaise, be absorbed into it, which is what I want so that the macaroni has flavor through and through, not just on the outer surface, if you get what I mean. So I started off with a cup of mayonnaise, and now I'm giving it a stir to get it fully incorporated, and then I'll continue to add more mayonnaise until it gets to the consistency that I like and my family likes. I also added the remainder of my onions that I had chopped up. So the hard part of this dish is over. That's just chopping everything and boiling the noodles. Now we're just seasoning it and mixing everything together. So I added black pepper. I'm also adding ground mustard and mix that well. So I would say start with a teaspoon of black pepper and the ground mustard and give it a taste and see how you like it before you decide if you want to add more seasoning. Now that it's seasoning, I added some plastic wrap on top to let it cool on the counter so that it didn't melt my other ingredients. So I chopped a little bit more onion because I decided I wanted that. And now I'm adding my chopped ham to the bowl, as well as my peas that have cooled down a little bit. And the last thing that I'm going to add is my cheese. I come from a family that loves cheese. That's not such a good thing. Cheese is high in fat, cholesterol, and sodium, of course. So this is a dish where you can get the meat and the cheese, but you're not getting a big portion of it because it's mixed in with macaroni and vegetables. And this really, in my family, is used as a side dish. So no one is eating a big portion of meat or cheese with this dish. Now, what I'm doing is I'm adding some more mayonnaise, about another cup, because I needed to mix in the ingredients that I added on top there. And look at how beautiful it looks. Quite festive with all the colors, and it's a nice blend of textures with the meat and cheese being a little bit firmer than the pasta and the peas. So now I'm just giving it a gentle mix through to make sure everything is fully incorporated. I know this dish looks really basic because it is, but it does have an amazing flavor. And who doesn't like ham and cheese, right? Well, I guess people who don't eat pork or dairy, but everyone else I think would probably enjoy this dish if you do eat pork and dairy. So I decided to go ahead and add a little bit more mayonnaise and the remainder of my peas. And everything came together quite beautifully. So just continue to mix. Now, you can absolutely eat this now and it's delicious, but if you're making this ahead of time and you decide to refrigerate it, the pasta is going to absorb more of that mayonnaise. Look at it the next day when I pulled it out the refrigerator. It doesn't look as creamy anymore. So to revitalize it, all I'm going to do is add a little bit more mayonnaise. I know this is a mayonnaise-y dish, but it is a rich side dish. So I put it into a serving bowl and I topped it with some green spring onions. This is a tasty way to feed a crowd of people for not a lot of money and not a lot of effort. Thank you so much for watching my video. Please subscribe to my channel and watch my other videos.